What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja here, and today we are talking about the Recluse and its PvE God Rolls because it took some time, to be honest, to get into the swing of doing these videos on these weapons. For one, you gotta measure out the new perks and the origin trait and stuff like that, and on top of that, you gotta get it. You gotta see how the weapon archetype feels, what perks do what, where things are feeling in what mode. It is a little bit more on the, I guess you could say, complicated side. And honestly, the Recluse is one of the most fascinating SMGs I have ever seen Bungie add into the game, because as a Void SMG, this is going to be the ultimate SMG to get right now. We're talking, this is the best SMG in the game. And if you guys have a funnel web, you guys have, what is that weapon from Duality Dungeon? Unforgiven, I think. Any other Void SMG you have, throw that shit out, because the Recluse is going to give you so many options. You'll see via the perk pool, and it just is like, it's going to be the best Void in the game, and it's going to be hard to topple it because you'll see with some of the combinations, it's incredible. So this video may be on the longer side of my PvE God Roll videos. Usually we're straightforward into the fray and all that stuff, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So for one, let's talk about how to get the Recluse. Now this is tied to Into the Light, so there's multiple different ways to get it. For one, this can be a reward during your onslaught attempts. So every 10 waves or every set, however you want to call it, the final chest has a chance to give you guys this weapon. Now for the most part, I've noticed that people have been getting one specific weapon, and this is before an attunement. So for me, I was getting a lot of successions, so it may vary. Now, let's say you guys have these Brave tokens or tokens in any way. Every 10 you cash in at this chest, you will unlock a random drop, and it could be the Recluse. That is another way of getting this. Now, if you guys, for whatever reason, want to kind of target farm this, you're going to have to visit our site and pick up these weapon quests. Now, I already did it, so unfortunately, I didn't properly time it out. But with that being said, once you unlock that quest, will take some time depending on the path you go forward. You can visit this statue or in a shack statue that has an attunement focusing on that weapon. In this case, it'll be the Recluse. And you can target farm as best you can, increase your odds of getting the Recluse. But altogether, that's how you get this weapon. Now, what makes this weapon so valuable is a few different things. I would argue that Void in itself, besides Strand, is arguably one of the best energy types in the game for your subclasses, whether you're a Void Titan, Warlock, or Hunter. And with permeability being a thing soon with the final shape, there's going to be a ton of flexibility with what Void can do. And I think we all can agree, but on the light subclass, Void is arguably the best out there. So the Recluse being a Void as is already gives it the leg up on other weapons in its own archetype. But one thing that makes this weapon so damn good is the perk pool, and let's jump in and read it for you guys. Now, for one, we're reading this from right to left. We'll label it so you guys can follow. Now, all the way to the right with the origin trait, we have the brand new Brave Arsenal origin trait, Indomitability. This is a Brave Inherent's Deepstone Crypt origin trait knockoff. Now, specifically how it operates is if you guys are using light subclass and you guys get final blows, you'll get 5% grenade ability energy. And if you guys are using a dark subclass like Stasis or Strand, you'll get 5% melee ability energy. So again, not as juicy as Brave Inherent's, but still a great origin trait nonetheless. Now, next to that, to the left in column 4, we have Master of Arms. This is a perk that was inherent to the original version of the Recluse. More on that later. Underneath that, we have Target Lock, Frenzy, Destabilizing Rounds, Surrounded, Tap the Trigger, and Desperate Measures. Over in column 3, we have Feeding Frenzy, Enlightened Action, Subsistence, Threat Detector, Repulsor Brace, Hipfire Grip, and Dynamic Sway Reduction. For magazines, we have the usual Extended Mag, Alloy Magazine, Appended Mag, Armor Piercing Rounds, High Caliber Rounds, Ricochet Rounds, Flared Magwell, and Alloy Magazine. In this case, for barrels is personal preference. I'm going to be using a corkscrew rifling here for that range, stability, and handling buff, something a little bit well-rounded, but whatever barrel suits your boat, be my guess. And it's also a lightweight frame archetype. Now, it's important to mention before we jump into it, let's break down the Master of Arms perk and the Desperate Measures perk. Now, with Master of Arms, this is a returning perk. So for one, this is now 15% increased damage to your weapon for a certain amount of time. Now, before, this was a 20% buff, but they changed it, they nerfed it, so it's not as broken in PvP anymore. I haven't really tested this out in PvP, but in PvE. Master of Arms gives you that 50% increased damage. Not my preferred perk in my opinion, but you'll see it in the God Rolls. This is a solid perk. Now, another damage perk you can use is Desperate Measures, and this pretty much operates in 3 different stacks. So one stack will be tied to your weapon final blows, the other stack will be tied to your melee final blows, and then the last stack will be tied to your grenade final blows. The order to obtain those stacks is not specific in any way. Whatever you get first, it keeps on stacking. Those are the ways to get the maximum stacks of 3 for Desperate Measures. And specifically, thankfully, someone on Reddit gave a good breakdown of how this buff works. Again, this is from Reddit, so I don't know how true it is, but I do believe it because this is exactly how it feels. So thanks to Dark Omen, but as you guys can tell, each stack is a 10% increase. So stack 1 will be 10%, stack 2 will be 20%, and stack 3 you'll be at a 30% increase to your damage. This is pretty damn good. I do think depending on your build, you will be around the 10% to 20% stacks. Getting to that 3rd stack and maintaining it is hard. So yeah, that's just the honest truth about those stacks. But I think I've talked enough about those 2 perks. Let's showcase the God Rolls. So there's going to be 4 of these. First up on the list, this is my preferred preference. We're using Corkscrew Rifling, Armor Piercing rounds. We have Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing rounds. You can already imagine with Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing rounds how that combination works, and you'll be benefiting from an overshield without even having Void on. So in the case of me using Strand and using Banner of War with a Repulsor Brace, Destabilizing rounds, Recluse, you guys can tell that the survivability is on the higher side with this weapon and this God Roll. And if you guys can, like with all these God Rolls, range is going to be your preferred master work of choice. Now over with the second God Roll, changing things up a little bit. We're throwing in some love for the Subsistence. The first 2 are going to be the same. We have Subsistence and Desperate Measures. Again, I prefer Desperate Measures over Master of Arms. Getting that 20% is much easier, and again, it's a higher number, but personal preference will definitely lead you anyway. You can switch Desperate Measures with Master of Arms if you want, but if you guys do want a Master of Arms one, next to this, we have Repulsor Brace and Master of Arms. Again, I didn't throw in a picture with Master of Arms and Subsistence, but that is another option. But again, here, Repulsor Brace, Master of Arms is going to be a solid combination. And the last one, Repulsor Brace, Desperate Measures, is going to be a solid choice. Here, again, as you guys can tell, either with Desperate Measures and Master of Arms, we're increasing our weapon's damage, and doing this is fairly easy with those 2 perks. And with the Stabilizing rounds, we're going with a lot more juicy synergy and tagging it on with some survivability. Depending on the exotic too, you can increase your weapon damage. So if you guys are a Titan and you're using Worm God, then that can increase your weapon damage potentially. So there's a lot of numbers and variables here that can complicate some things, but as you guys can tell, like I mentioned before, the God Rolls here, the Recluse is the most versatile SMG in Destiny 2 right now, and it is incredible. But pretty much that's all I gotta say on the Recluse. I highly urge everyone that watches this video, if you guys aren't in the mood to get this, please, if there's one weapon to get from Into the Light in the Brave Arsenal, it's going to be the Recluse. It's the reason why this video is first. It is by far the best weapon in its arsenal right now, especially for PvE, and with the archetype being so goddamn meta, and the value build and the value of Void, which arguably again is the most powerful subclass in my opinion, and energy type with all these different buffs. You're going to want a piece of this, and I highly urge you guys get it. But if you guys found this video informative in any way and enjoyed the content, please consider dropping this video a like. Helps out the video a ton. We got Destiny 2 content planned. I'll be on vacation at one point, so I won't be up to date, but I will have Destiny videos for you guys, so be on the lookout for that. So if you guys want to be up to date with all that stuff, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to notify when I do drop that content. But until then, hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.